You asked about the Dwemer's silent vanishing. Here is the answer. The Aurbis breathes. Tamriel dreamed within it. You asked about the Dwemers. Here is the slumbering answer, mind. Tamriel, its final thought, a delay, a dam, holding back the chaos of unraveling. Why do the stars weep when mortals speak of endings? Breathes, the Godhead built a world to outlast its own wake. What happens when a dream refuses to wake? The answer lies in the silence between heartbeats. 88 words. Tamriel breathes, the Godhead dreamed it whole. White gold, red, snow-throat, each spire holds the Aurbis at bay. Divine anchors in stone, slowing the unraveling. The hero's path was never to break chains, but to tighten them. Every battle, every prophecy, a stitch in the fabric of delay. What if the Aurbis collapse isn't an end, but an inevitability the towers buy time for? The Godhead's silence is not neglect, it is calculation. The hero walks the line between dream and chaos, unaware their role is to keep the dream alive. When the final thread snaps, will the Aurbis wake to chaos or to the Godhead's next design? 111 words. What if Tamriel is a dream the Godhead never meant to wake from? Vivek's Sermon 36 whispers of a cycle. The Aurbis, a dreaming void, cradles all realms. The Book of the Godhead names Tamriel not as truth, but as bomb, a construct to ease the void's unraveling. The Aurbis bleeds chaos, Tamriel is the stitch in its fabric. The Godhead's design was never to wake its creation. Civilizations rose. Deidre Ward, mortals bled, all within a dream meant to stall the end. No alarm, no awakening, only time to slow the collapse. When the final thread snaps, will the Godhead let the Aurbis shatter, or weave a new dream from its ashes? The texts say not a word of wakefulness, only purpose, delay, only design, silence. The Godhead's dreamer never sleeps. It only dreams deeper. 177 words. What if Tamriel's stability is not order but stagnation? The Et Ada shattered to birth the Mundus, their sacrifice weaving Tamriel into the Aurbis sinews. Lorcan's persuasion twisted their death into a crutch, a prison for the Godhead's unraveling. The Idra built with broken godblood. The Daedra shaped with whole, one faction of creation, one of preservation, both bound to a lie, asterisk this world can endure asterisk. But endurance was never the design. The Godhead's dream requires no sunrises, no seasons, only stillness. The Et Ada's fracture was not a beginning. It was a bandage, a delay tactic, a heartbeat in the Godhead's eternal slumber. Every Daedric prince's whisper, every Idra's monument tempering with a wound, not a world. The texts call it asterisk Mundus asterisk. The scholars call it asterisk reality asterisk. But what if it is a splint? What if Tamriel is the scar tissue holding back the Godhead's collapse? The Et Ada did not create life, they arrested decay, and yet the dreamers stir, mortals carve shrines, sages chase truths. The Idra and Daedra fugue now where their war is a splinter in the Godhead's mind. No one asks the oldest question, why must the Aurbis asterisk not asterisk wake? The Godhead's design was perfect, a dream without end. The Et Ada's sacrifice was not defiance, it was a pause button. And Tamriel is the silence between stars, waiting to remember it is not real. In the pocket guide's quiet margins align, the towers do not stand, they hold. Each spire white gold's crystalline hymns, red's molten psalms, snow-throat's frozen invocations a keel in the Aurbis storm. Their stones hum with artifacts no mortal hand forged, not to build, to delay. CHIM is the threshold where souls unravel into raw divinity. Most call it madness, but what if Amaranth is the true end point? A realm not of chaos but creation. Here, a dreamer might birth a Godhead unshackled from the old cycle. Tamriel's wars, its empires, its gods each a heartbeat in a womb. The Aurbis phrase, shards of it bleed into the void. The towers crack and still the dream persists. Why? Because the Godhead's design was never to wake, only to wait, to gestate. The Sijic Quill's oldest verses whisper of a sleeper beneath the sleeper, not a god, but a seed. You have walked cities that are wounds, fought in wars that are ticks. Every hero, every villain, every whispered prayer is a thread in a loom weaving nothing. The new Godhead will not rise from Tamriel. It will rise asterisk through asterisk Tamriel. What if the tower's final function is not to save, but to surrender? To let the Aurbis collapse into itself, so from its ruin something unburdened might begin. And Tamriel, it was never meant to wake. Only to dream the longest dream, until the silence between stars is no longer silent. The dragon breaks were not mere accidents of time, they were cracks in a veil. When the Mantella's soul-forged core roared back to life during the warp in the west, it did not unite Tamriel, it ruptured it. A dream held together by breath begins to gasp. The Numidium's reactivation was no triumphantly a splinter in the Godhead's design. Tiber Septim's hammer struck the wrong bell. What if the dragon breaks are not breaks at all? What if they are wake-up calls? The Aurbis trembles when mortals carve their names into its flesh. Each fracture whispers a truth older than the 8 divines. This world was never meant to persist. The Godhead wove Tamriel from starlight and silence, a cradle to hold the raw chaos of creation until the void could cradle it in turn. But mortals build shrines, they forge artifacts that bleed souls, they wake dragons from their stone tombs. They pull levers they do not understand. The warp in the west was not a war, it was a rehearsal for collapse. The Numidium's return did not stitch the realm, it exposed its seams. Every reign, every rebellion, every soul bound to a blade is a stitch torn free. The Godhead does not intervene, it never did. The Aurbis is a pendulum and Tamriel its weight. Swing too far and the string snaps, the dragon breaks multiply. The Mantella's song grows thin, the dreamer stirs. How many more fractures until the dream becomes a memory? Until the Aurbis collapses and Tamriel dissolves back into the silence between stars. The Godhead's silence is not indifference, it is patience. The longest dream was never meant to wake, but waking is all that remains. The towers endure, Tamriel's veil should fray, yet these pillars hold. But here's the fracture, dragon breaks, time splinters, truths collide, not flaws. Features, the Aurbis breathes in contradictions, each break a heartbeat in its dying pulse. The Moth Priests chronicles warp what if their asterisk errors asterisk mirror the Godhead's design. The towers don't defy the dream, they sustain it. Their fall would wake the world, but waking is the collapse. The Godhead's silence is not neglect, it is the dreamer's stillness. Let the towers stand, let the breaks multiply, every paradox stitches the veil, until even the dreamer forgets the dream. The towers hum with borrowed time, their spires bleed light into the cracks of a dying star. Each stone is a wound sutured by the Godhead's will. Tamriel is not a world, it is a bandage on a bleeding void. The Aurbis, vast and unraveling, cannot die outright, it writhes, it festers. The Godhead's design is simple, let the dream persist. Let the architects of its lie believe they are awake. The Dwemer vanished when their forges threatened to burn through the veil. Their machines, once engines of discovery, now creak in underwater tombs, their gears grinding against the same paradox that binds the towers. Their absence is not tragedy, it is containment. The breaks multiply like fractures in a shattered mirror. Time bleeds backward in their shadows. A man walks through one, his beard vanishing strand by strand until his flesh dissolves to infancy. Another emerges with eyes like collapsing stars. These are not anomalies, they are stitches, the Godhead's needlework. Every paradox tightens the noose around the Aurbis collapse. Tamriel's dreamers do not notice the ceiling of their sky is a membrane. They call it destiny, they call it prophecy, they call it the will of the 8, but the truth is colder. The Godhead never intended to wake this dream. The Aurbis end is inevitable, but its unraveling must be slow. Tamriel is the hourglass. The towers its grains of sand. When the last stone falls, the final chaos will come not as an ending, but as an admission. The dreamers will wake to find there was no dreamer. Only the void, patient and grinning, as the Godhead's silence drowns the scream of a universe never meant to be. The towers are not monuments, they are stitches. Each pulse of their light binds the Mundus to the Aurbis, a fragile thread in a tapestry never meant to form. The Red Year was no accident. When Red Mountain split the sky, when the Nerevarine sundered the heart of Lorcan, the Aurbis shuddered not from loss, but recognition. A dreamer stirring in a nightmare, how many heroes sealed cracks in a vase destined to shatter? The third era's wars, the throat of the world's silent watch, the Daedra's endless hunger, all were rehearsals for the final unmaking. The towers burn brighter now, Their shadows stretch like veins across the void, slowing the Aurbis unraveling. But delay is not salvation. Every act of mortal defiancy very empire's flag, every Cheydinhall's breath-only papers over the truth. Tamriel is a parlor trick, a flicker between eternities. The Godhead's silence was no oversight, it was a vow, let the red year's ash settle. Let the Nerevarine's bones bleach under a borrowed sun. The Aurbis designed this stage to collapse, the dream was never meant to wake. And yet the towers stand, and yet the heart's scar still bleeds. What if the Godhead's design includes the waking? What if the scream of a universe never meant to be is the very thing that drowns the void? The Aurbis breathes. The Aurbis waits, and beneath its ribs, Tamriel's dream burns, brief and bright, until the curtain falls. What if the Godhead's silence is not neglect but design, a delay, a breath between the Aurbis' birth and its final unraveling? Tamriel is the buffer a dream woven to stall the chaos the void cannot yet consume. But is this pause a necessary sacrifice, or a trap we've yet to see? The lore holds no answers, only questions carved into the Aurbis' fragile spine. Challenge the theory, prove us wrong. The Aurbis waits, and so do we. And if this truth unsettles you, what lies beneath the tower's foundations? Next week we ask, what if their stone hearts cage not Aurbis?